RJ Eskow, and it is time for every Trump voter in this country to acknowledge a simple fact. Trump voters, you've been had. This guy has run a classic grift on you, and you fell for it. Now, first of all, let's start with a little economic fact. The economic inequality in this country is not getting better. It's getting worse. In fact, a new report confirms, and this report is not from any lefty, by the way. This is from Deutsche Bank, which has its own wealth and its own ethical problems. But Deutsche Bank's chief economist reported that the share of U.S. household wealth by income level now stands as follows. The top 0.1% of households now holds roughly the same amount of wealth as the bottom 90%. This is a significant change over previous decades, as Deutsche Bank acknowledges. Let's put that in simple terms. If you put 1,000 people in an auditorium, one person in that auditorium has as much money as 900 other people in that auditorium. That's how bad the inequality in the United States is. You know who's not going to change that? Donald Trump's cabinet. Let's talk a little bit about some of the people he's picking. Now, let's talk about Wilbur Ross, billionaire, and they say he is going to be our Commerce Secretary. Now, he was already out there, by the way, reassuring investors that Trump wasn't going to do anything rash. As soon as Trump got elected, that it was all talk. Okay, now, what does Wilbur Ross do for a living? He invests in what they call distressed assets. Now, what does it mean when you're an investor in distressed assets? Well, remember the aliens in Independence Day? Remember how their ships came in, and when they found a planet they could conquer, they killed off everybody on it, plundered its resources, extracted everything that was valuable from it, and then left it a lifeless husk? Well, what Wilbur Ross does for a living is the economic equivalent of that. Finds distressed companies, preys on them, bilks them for every last penny that can be made, fires all the employees, sells off everything, and goes away even richer than before. Now, he is, you're going to be your Commerce Secretary. Now, of course, there is also, as we mentioned earlier, Steve Mnuchin. Now, Steve Mnuchin is going to be the Secretary of the Treasury. Now, what does that mean for us as a people? Well, I put a little thought here together about Mnuchin. Well, first of all, Mnuchin, as we mentioned earlier, was a movie producer, but he's a scion of inherited wealth, like Trump himself. He was a son of a top Goldman Sachs person, so daddy got him a job there. He retired out of Goldman Sachs with a lot of money. Now, if I'm getting it correctly, now I might be confusing him with Steve Bannon, but I don't think so. We do know he came out of Goldman Sachs, and we do know that he was a foreclosure predator. He purchased a mortgage bank called One West in California, made money with the worst kinds of foreclosure predation, including foreclosing on people when there was a 27-cent error. I mean, a lot of this has been documented. Really rough stuff. Got roughly $4 billion in federal funding for doing that sort of thing. Was especially known for foreclosing in minority areas and for foreclosing on the elderly, which gets us back to our earlier theme of Trump as a financial elder abuser. Now, so he is an elder abuser. He was also, by the way, cited for specializing in the foreclosure of seniors, especially widows and widowers. So this guy was cited in one report for, quote unquote, I quote, foreclosure of widows. That means that he is essentially, literally, the villain in a silent movie Western. Okay, that's how bad these people are. Now, we've got Goldman Sachs as an organization has been famed for such scams as Abacus, which was one of the ways it played a double game against investors by encouraging them to invest in mortgage-backed securities that were picked by a guy that was betting against mortgage-backed securities, so was deliberately picking dogs. I mean, the bad behavior at Goldman Sachs is unbelievable. Now they're laughing last. Now, here's what Trump said Now, this is getting back to my theme of Trump voters, you've been had. Trump last February was talking about Ted Cruz and Hillary Clinton, and here's what he said, and I quote, he said, I know the guys at Goldman Sachs. They have total control over him, meaning Ted Cruz, just like they have total control over Hillary Clinton. Now, then he ran an ad. It showed the CEO of Goldman Sachs, Lloyd Blankfein, while the narrator said, it's a global power structure responsible for the economic decisions that have robbed our working class, stripped our country of its wealth, and put that money in the pocket of a handful of large corporations and political entities, end quote. So Trump was out there saying the guys at Goldman Sachs have total control over Ted Cruz and Hillary Clinton. That's how he got elected. This is why I say Trump voters, you've been had. Because you know what he has total control over now? You know what Goldman Sachs has total control over now? You, pal. You and me and the economy we live in. Now, I don't know how you feel about that, but I feel that's a catastrophe. I think if you voted for Donald Trump, you probably think that's a catastrophe too. You were probably taken in by the rhetoric that says, I'm not going to let those Goldman Sachs guys control me. Well, maybe to be fair to Donald Trump, maybe they're not controlling him. Maybe he's just using them to control the rest of us. But let's be clear, not a single one of these guys went to jail after committing crimes and fraud and ruining the economy and being bailed out by the taxpayer. And now, thanks to Donald Trump, they're in charge. I am Richard RJ Eskow, and this is The Zero Hour.